Hi, Dad. You need some water?
I'm still chewing.
I love it when
Okay.
you come over here. So listener, you may not be aware, but we record these in my house, and it's so fun because we originally started with you being at your house, and we're both zooming in, but I feel like it's way more fun when we're together.
Oh, absolutely.
Yep. And then what's really cool is that I get to make lunch or have a snack for us in between if we're doing multiple recordings a day, and we get to spend more time together. It's super fun.
So I showed up. I'm here.
I mean, he'll go anywhere for a free meal. Just kidding. Okay, so we're gonna do something really fun today.
I'll be the judge of that.
I recently was introduced to a really amazing human, Alyssa, who works at Stanford and is works in the design for play stage. And so she designs trainings for play and every different thing. And she came up with this really cool activity that we did in this big group that I was in. And you and I are going to do it right now. Are you ready
Now,
for it? Yes. Okay.
I'm not prepared for this.
It's okay. So in front of you, you have a pad of paper and a piece of paper.
Right?
So we are going to take 30 seconds for you to draw my um, portrait, and I'm going to draw your portrait. Okay, you ready?
Yeah.
So listener, just bear with us. We can talk as we're doing this. So ready? And okay, I'm going to set a timer. Hold on. Let's set a timer. I realize, listener, you
I'm not
can't see
cheating.
this. Hold
I'm
on. I
not
haven't
cheating.
started
I
yet.
haven't
One
started
second.
yet.
Okay, don't start yet. 30 seconds to draw our. Okay, you
Okay,
ready?
look
And
at me.
go. Okay, well, I'm looking at you, but I'm also looking at you. So we are drawing right now. We've got a piece of paper, and we're both go ahead and drawing our profile. And what she explained
Just
is
how
that
comes the front face?
front face. Oh yeah, portrait. What she explained is that it's really interesting to see how other people see you. And so I thought that was actually a cool thing as well too, that when you get someone to draw you, you get to see how they see you. And like you don't have to have a really good artistic ability. I don't think like that's not something that's really that important to have, but that it's like actually like a fun activity to see how you would draw and that as adults we don't get back to drawing as much as we used to. You know, as kids, we used to draw so much more. And like now, we don't draw as much, but think about how fun it is. Oh, I think we're over 30 seconds. Stop. We're over 30 seconds. Okay, ready? One, two, three, go. Show it to the listener. I feel like it's the same
Sir,
person.
no, that's a beard. This is hair.
So basically, we drew the same thing, but mine has somewhat longer hair. If you're not watching on YouTube, I highly recommend that you go and watch this part of the episode because that's really funny. Look at that. So I'm going to sign yours. Here you go. So you have mine now. You want to sign yours? I'm going to put it up in my office. So that is for you, Dad. That is your early Father's Day gift. There you go. And do I need to
That was the
like
purpose of the exercise?
well, it's just, you know, the purpose of the exercise is that, first of all, as adults, we don't use our creative sides very often anymore, right? We are so focused on screens and on typing, but we don't take the time to step back and use our creative side.
That's right.
Yeah, there you go. He's holding it in front of his
I
face if
need
you're
to
just
lose
listening.
some weight. My
No.
God.
And so the thing is that there's different things that we can do. And that's why, like, when I'm doing trainings, I always try to incorporate play and fun into it because when you're having fun, the memories stick even more. You know, joke about this that during COVID, when we were on lockdown, we were at homeschooling for a while, and I was trying to do as many fun things as possible because my daughter was, I think she was like 3 or 4 at the time, and she still had to learn, but I didn't want like learning to be like the focus. But there was one thing that we did when she was 4 years old, where we got those glow sticks. And you may have seen this listener online, but we got glow sticks and we taped them or fastened them to our clothing as if we were like a skeleton so you could see the glow sticks. And then we went in the garage and we turned off all the lights and we were glowing and we started doing like a dance party.
Hmm.
We should do it. We should totally do that. And it was so much fun doing that. And so she was at a daycare from the age of 15 months all the way up until she was 6 years old with some of the same kids every single year, like every single year. I remember all of those kids, but when I asked her and I asked her questions, hey, do you remember this kid? Do you remember that kid? She's like, no, mommy, I don't remember them. But I remember when we danced in the garage with the glow sticks, and she was the same age when we did that, and
Hmm.
that only lasted maybe 30 minutes.
That's a
So
more bigger impression. Something you she really enjoyed.
right, because she had fun. So when we're doing things of play and we're having fun, you know, another thing that we do is last year we started this driveway movie party where we invite our neighbors over and we sit on the driveway and we project the movie on the screen and we watch that. And so we're going to do it again this year. But, you know, my husband was like, well, why can't we just have like a movie party upstairs and, you know, and like watch it on the TV? I said, because that's not the unique experience. Like, we're creating core memories right now that will last a lifetime. Sitting on the couch watching TV is not a core memory.
So he kind of needed. a playtime also.
Yes, yes. So it's amazing what you can do to create those lasting memories, but it just comes back to play. Like, are you always gonna remember, like, we drew this and we look like just about the same human? Just, I don't even, yeah. Oh, actually, you wrote on Funked on the hat. Good job. I didn't do
Of
that.
course.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
You got
We're
this.
both bringing our own fun hacks
You're
today.
really not frowning. You're really more smiling itself. But I was rushed for time.
Well, I was being serious, but you
If I
the
had if
V-neck.
I had 2 minutes, it could have been a Mona
I
Lisa.
even got the V-neck. That's
Yeah,
amazing.
of
Yeah, I
course.
love that. Well, anyway, I thought was that fun? I like it, creating moments. Well, listener, you are in for a treat today. I actually have never met our guest today, either of you, Dad, and I don't remember how we got connected, but she is
They
fascinating.
call it litigation Lex, eh?
Yes, litigation Lex. And did you know that Lex
I,
in Latin is law?
I wouldn't date a single girl with that name. That's scary.
Law, law.
Hello, Google,
A what?
Gaga.
Well, good thing you're not in the dating field. Anyway, we're excited about welcome Lex in today, and we're going to learn all about Lex.
Is she hear us now?
She cannot hear us or not.
We never said
Well,
that.
no, she can hear you when she watches and listens to the episode down the road. Yeah.
Oh God. I'm liable.
No, this will be super fun. I'm really excited. I love it when we meet people that we don't know. And like we actually have had a lot of listeners or a lot of guests that we haven't known that have reached out to us and said, "Hey, I'd love to be on the show," or that have,
We're here for
said,
you. Come
"We're
on
here,
back.
Lex, when you're ready to turn on your camera and your mic. We are here ready to speak with you. We're so excited to be connected." And I can imagine, looking at what Lex's reputation has been online and seeing just like all of the cool things that are there for what she's done in her career. And obviously, we don't talk to people about their career. We talk more about like their life story. But as soon as we get Lex on camera, there you
Good
are.
morning.
Good morning.
It's
How are
so
you?
nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well.
We
Thank
are so glad
you.
to have you on. I'm just making sure the sound is okay. Can you hear us okay?
Ken, I just turned you up.
All right, amazing. Well, we were just talking briefly about you. We're recording now, so we are live in the
Okay.
podcast.
First, a disclaimer. This doesn't count as billable hours, does it?
No,
That's Jack English.
no, that would be nice, but no. Do I get to send you a bill?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. No billing here.
I don't know. Stan asked for a bill.
It's in Pakistan.
Well, it is so nice to meet you. We like to do a little research about our guests before we meet with them, and we do know a little bit about your background, but our listeners don't, and we'll get to that. You may have listened to a few of our episodes, but we really like to touch on the human side of who you are and how you ended up where you are today. So we'll go back in time, kind of like a "this is your life," but no one else is showing up. Don't worry.
They're in the green
Yeah,
room.
they're in the green room. Before we get
No
to
accent. No accent for showing
yeah,
up.
no accent.
Guess who they are?
Yeah. But
That might
before
be interesting.
before we get started, we like to start with the same question of all of our guests to understand where your mental state is. So that question is, what is your number right now? Not your phone number, but your number on a scale of 1 to 10. 10 being it's the best day you have ever had. There is not a worry in the world. All the way down to 1 being a day that you shouldn't be peopling and you should probably, be in bed just snuggled up with a cozy blanket or something.
That's most days.
Right. What is your number right now?
It's 9. I'm so happy to be here, and I think this is just going to be a fabulous year. I'm so optimistic about 2026. I love the new year. I think it's a restart for everyone, and I love, January is one of my favorite months of the year.
Well, that's amazing. Where has that been like your life philosophy all the time? Did that stem from something or?
It is my life philosophy. I think a lot of stuff is mindset. I think if you go into it with the mindset, but also I think like after a nice rain, it cleanses everything. And the new year is a restart, and it's a time to really reflect back, but also to look forward and plan the future and what you're going to do and all the wonderful things you want to accomplish during that year.
I love that. It's such a good mindset to have. And sometimes it's just like every day can be that way as well too, right? Like it's like, okay, But take us back to, so where are you originally from? And do you like to go by Lexus or Lex? Because I've read both. So which one do you prefer?
I go by both. I go by Lex or Alexis. So whichever one you want to call me. I'm not one of those people that gets upset if you go one way or the other.
Do you drive one?
No, I do not. But I've been asked that a lot. No, I don't. I drive a BMW.
Okay, BMW Lex, tell us your story.
Yeah. So where'd you grow up?
So I grew up mostly in Virginia Beach, a nice little beach town in Virginia. So, now that I'm mostly in Sarasota, it's not much of a change. I've always lived near the water. When we lived in New York, I was near the water. I lived on the other coast of Florida in Fort Lauderdale and Boca Raton. I was near the water. So I definitely need to be near the water for sure.
Are you a water sign? Is that your yeah?
You
What sign
Jamie,
are
you
you?
nailed it.
Pipe,
Yes.
pipe,
What are
I'm a
you?
water sign.
Which
Pisces?
one? Which one?
I'm Cancer.
Me too. Oh my goodness. We'll have to talk. We don't share personal birthday information on this podcast, but we'll connect
Well,
afterward.
Definitely.
they've narrowed you down.
I know, yeah. Well, my husband is a consumer attorney, consumer rights attorney.
Okay.
He's like, don't you talk about anything personal on the podcast.
Well, I mean, yes, we need to stay within just some things.
Yeah. But I figured you might be. I'm the same way. Like the beach and the ocean is just amazing. So no wonder we're both crabs. So you grew up Virginia Beach, and then I know now that you're an attorney, but was like that always as a little girl, we always grew up saying, I want to do this, I want to do that. And I always think it's really funny that there's, in our generation, there was only like a few jobs you could have. Today, the kids are like, I want to be an influencer, all different stuff. But like, where was your inspiration growing up that you wanted to eventually end up in the legal field?
Well, first I wanted to be a model when I was
Ooh,
4, but,
I love
but that
that.
didn't work out for me. So when I was 9, I actually watched, I'm going to so age myself right now. I watched this movie called Paper Chase, and it was basically about law students being abused in law school. So, if we have a psychologist, we could go back, or I'll just chat GPT
When you were 9?
why that appealed to me. But that's a whole nother podcast. But yeah, and then all of a sudden, after watching that movie, which was primarily about law students being abused in law school, I wanted to be a lawyer from that point on.
Whoa, time out. You were looking forward to being abused?
Apparently, like I said, we need to ask a psychologist what that's
Well,
about.
John Houseman was when professors. He was fabulous.
Oh, in the movie?
It's a great thespian.
But was there someone in your family? Like, what made you watch that movie, all movies? Was there an attorney in your family? Was that the type of movie you watched as kids, like those heavier movies, or where'd that come from?
I mean, my dad was a movie buff, so we watched a lot of movies. I mean, I also watched movies about prostitution. I didn't want to become that. So,
I don't know, Pretty Woman, it worked out pretty well.
that didn't resonate with me, but
Julia Roberts made it look good.
yeah.
It's funny. Like I remember watching Dirty Dancing when I was probably like 9 or 10 years old. And I have a 10-year-old now, and there is not a chance in the world I would let her watch that right now. Like it's so funny how what we watched, and maybe I'm being overprotective of her, but I remember like
You're a parent.
yeah, I remember like pausing it when Patrick Swayze got up and I could see his butt. And I'm like, no, she doesn't need to see that yet. So I think that's interesting that you started with that. So so you're 9, you're growing up in Virginia Beach. How did your life, progress from that point forward in pursuing that legal career? Like what did that look like for you?
I think that was just my focus. I knew, like, instinctually that's what I wanted to do. I also knew that I wanted to live in Florida from I had lived briefly in Florida as a child when I was around 4 and 5 years old, but I knew I wanted to go back to Florida. And I would tell people I'm going to be an attorney and I'm going to live in Florida and I'm going to have 2 kids. And I ended up having 3 and 2 stepkids, and I'm going to marry a lawyer. One thing is I thought I'd meet him in law school, which I didn't. But so I don't know. And maybe it just goes to that from an early age, I envisioned my life and how I wanted my life to be, which is crazy now looking back because I look at my 12 and 13-year-old. My 13-year-old is a little more focused, but my 12-year-old is kind of all over the place. And so thinking that, I mean, that was unusual. Most of my friends didn't have, their life plotted out at 9. I think it was probably like triggered because that was actually looking back, like when my parents got a divorce. And I think probably that was like, so unsettling that I was like, okay, I can have a little like feeling of safety based on the fact that I'm plotting out the rest of my life or I have control over my future, even though I didn't have control
Just
over.
out of curiosity, in those visions, did the kids have any faces, or you saw yourself in a legal situation at all? Or no, just a feeling.
No, I mean, and I
Or
didn't know
with.
what area of law I wanted to go into when I went into law school because I researched, the areas that were best to go into. I actually, it was the top two were securities and maritime, and I'm not so great at math. That's not my strong point.
But
So
you can't
securities
swim.
kind of went out the window really quickly. So I went into law school thinking that I was going to be doing maritime law, and then I took a maritime law class, and I was like, oh no, this is all treaties, and oh no, I do not want to do this for sure. But my major was, even though I say to people that tell me they want to be lawyers, you don't have to be a poli-sci major, but kind of Jamie, what you were saying, like back then it was like, oh, you want to be a lawyer, you need to be a political science major in undergrad, but I only majored in that. I also minored in philosophy and women's studies, which is crazy because that was really a new area. And mostly that was a throw in because I was told, oh, you have enough credits for this. You take one more class and you can have a minor in women's studies too under the philosophy. But the only reason I majored in that was because that's what I was told. But my stepkids are both attorneys, and one majored in criminal justice just because he thought that was interesting. The other one actually majored in classical dance. She actually ended up going to a better law school than myself and her brother with the classical dance. So I tell future lawyers or people who are interested, major in whatever you want. Well, because as long as you get some writing classes, major in whatever you want to major in, because sometimes having that diversity, for my stepdaughter at
Different
least, because
perspectives.
they were like, oh, that's an unusual major, and it stood out. And she graduated from Georgetown Law, and it stood out to them. And they were like, that's unusual. So
That's really cool. How old were you when your parents got divorced? You mentioned that
I
earlier.
was 9. That's
Yeah.
what that around the time I was watching this
Oh,
movie. Yeah.
wow.
How many siblings at that time?
I actually have, at that time, there was just myself and my sister. My younger sister, she's 3 years younger. I ultimately ended up having a half brother, and then I ended up finding out I had an older sister that was 10 years older than me that was
Woo.
actually put up for adoption, that I found out about her later, but I did not know about her at that time.
How did you, I see, I don't never know where this conversation is going to go, but I'm like, whoa, tell us about that. Like, we're just genuinely curious. So that was an older sister that was from both of your birth parents?
No, it was from my
Oh,
mother. It was from my
okay.
mother, yeah.
How did
So,
how,
but
like, how did you
yeah, when
find that
she was in
out?
college, she ended up getting pregnant with actually my sister's grandfather is a pretty well respected civil rights leader. I don't know all the specifics, but there's books written about him. And my mother was dating the son, who is the father of my sister at the time, and he was older, about 20 years older, and an African American. And she got pregnant, and he was not interested in staying together. And her father was like, this is going to be a really tough road. I mean, it was 1962.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
she put her up for adoption. I feel like this is her story, not mine though.
Yeah.
He put her up for adoption, and they hid and said she was actually Colombian because they were afraid that she wouldn't be adopted. And she was adopted by a family that actually, the mother, the wife, was Mexican, and the father was from like Minnesota that worked for the Defense Department, now the Department of War, um, but worked for the Defense Department. And she was looking for a baby that would look Latina, to better fit in. And yeah, she had a wonderful life. And I found out about her actually when I was pregnant with my second child. And she found my mother at the time my mother was alive, found my mother. And yeah, we vacation together. We speak on a regular
Wow.
This
basis.
is a screenplay. Are you kidding?
Yes. What an
She's a
incredible
doctor
story.
in Napa. She ended up adopting, not even knowing she was African American at the time, adopted two African American children.
Wow.
She and when she thought she was Colombian, and actually it was a bonding thing for those two kids because she was
Yeah.
like, oh, we're both. She's African American. One of them is half African American, and the other one has two birth parents that are both
Wow.
are African American. But yeah,
Wow, what an incredible story.
we
Gosh.
should have her on.
Yes,
She
well,
can.
please refer us. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
I mean, that's so interesting that, everyone's story just kind of goes down a different path. So we'll jump back into yours. So you're 9, your parents get divorced, you figure out like this is what you want to do. You want to marry a lawyer, you want to have 2 kids, all this kind of stuff. And then in high school, did you do any type of, debate team or anything like that to get you ready for litigation?
I didn't do it, and I didn't do it in high school. My father had before the divorce had had a massive heart attack, and so throughout my at the time I was 4, throughout my childhood, his health was like coming in and out. It had left him like partially brain damaged, and so this is like really getting sad, and my life is really sad.
No, it's your
Yeah.
story.
So yeah, so a lot of my time like in high school was kind of managing like because at the time he ended up living to be 70, but at the time it was like multiple times through my life they were like, oh, his whatever small chance to make it through the night. And that had happened a couple times, and during those high school years I think it had happened twice during those times. And then this was like around the time they were starting to put in like defibrillators and stuff in the heart. So once he got that, it was regulated, it was able to be regulated, but before that it was kind of hit or miss. So the extracurricular stuff was really I wasn't didn't have time to do that. I was also working a lot of hours. I had an after, I know this is unheard of now, but I had an after school job.
Yeah, I did. What was your job? What was your after school job?
Yeah. What was that? I'm sorry,
What
Jamie.
was your after school job?
I mean, I had different ones. I worked, my first one was at Subway, and then I was working at a car rental place. It was part of a dealership, doing front desk. I worked briefly in like a call center, like for collections, not attorney. He was a debt collector for a debt collector.
Wow.
That was like 2 weeks. He was really mean.
But
Goes in
see,
the
it's like so important to hear that because people will look at you now and say, wow, you're on court TV, you're on this TV, you're on that TV. And like they don't realize that you have a big backstory. Like it wasn't always, life isn't
you
always
never see the journey.
right.
This
You
is
never see
finished.
the journey. So I love that you're talking about that and sharing that. Like you went through some really troubling times in high school and try to figure out, your dad's health. You had a job, you were working, and were you going back and forth between your mom and your dad's house as you were doing that?
Look at that way. When they had a divorce, they really it was, I don't know if it was contentious, meaning when the actual divorce happened, but they were pretty good at not pulling us between. So if one wanted us, that was never there was never an issue there. So I was usually at my father's every weekend and then at my mom's during the day. They lived pretty close to each other. In the very beginning of the early years of the divorce, we were having holidays together. There was never an issue with them being in the same room. Even later on, even later on, when my father was dying, my mother like went to the hospital, so that tension luckily did not exist. I didn't have to deal with that.
That's good. So you're in high school, and then how do you decide where you want to go to college when you're in high school to start your path as an adult, as they say?
Fulfill your mission.
Yeah.
Well, that was not conventional. I took out a map. That's another thing some of the listeners might not know. And I really was like, where are the closest colleges because of my dad's health, to my dad, and that I would want to go to. And that's literally how I picked the school.
So no darts were involved, throwing darts at the map.
No darts. I just was like, okay, this is an hour and a half away. This works. If something happens,
Sure.
I can get back. And
Yeah, because
that's
the issue just looms over you all the time. When it's a parent, the issue looms over you all. It could happen any moment. And you're just
yeah.
concerned.
Well,
Yeah.
it's like, and I think like the older we get, like I'm so grateful that I live so close to my parents because like that's, to me, family's.
Jamie, I live in the house with you.
No, you do not. No, you do not. Maybe one day.
That's funny. It's great you guys had that great relationship with each other. That really is so
Well,
nice.
she does always claim to be the favorite of three daughters.
I am. And my other two sisters don't ever listen to our podcast, so they'll never even be able to like, argue against that.
Listen, I always say my husband has a favorite. He has five total kids, and he definitively has a favorite. And the favorite says, I'm the favorite. And I'm like, stop telling the other ones that.
I
She's
mean,
like, they know.
you can't hide it. You can't hide it. So then when you went to college, your undergrad was in, you said women's, no, was that right? You said
It was a major in political science,
right.
and then it was a double minor in philosophy, and then women's studies, which was, like I said, a throw-in. They were like, take
Yeah.
one more class, and we'll give you this. And I was like,
Wow,
okay.
is political science different in the day?
Yes. I mean, the
Well,
landscape of that has probably changed so much.
mhm. Well, so where I went to undergrad was kind of known for grooming Virginia politicians. It was also known for putting out quite a few like individuals that ended up going to law school as well. So their political science was real, which ended up being a blessing, but it was really developed for the purpose of preparing people to go to law school. Matter of fact, my constitutional law that I took in undergrad, I remember like at one point I thought I was going to fail, and I went into the professor's office and I was crying and I was like, "Oh my God, I'm planning on going to law school. I'm going to be horrible. I'm going to fail your class." And he was like, "Okay, calm down. This is only the first, test. You'll be fine." And when I took constitutional law in law school, I actually
Like it.
emailed him in the middle of the class and I was like, "I want to tell you, your class was so much harder than the class I'm taking right now in law school."
That's
And
nice.
he was like, "I'm going into my class right now and telling them that." He was like wearing it was like a badge of honor for
Well,
him.
it's great preparation for you,
Wow.
sure.
Yeah, but it did. It gave me that preparation. So I was not like a lot of people when they go to law school. The way they teach is so much different than the way you learn the method of teaching in undergrad. So that Paper Chase movie and that preparation of undergrad really prepared
Yeah.
me for law school.
Did you watch that movie again after being the age of 90? Like, did you continue to watch that movie throughout your life as you prepared for law school?
Well, they ended up turning it in. I think it was HBO ended up turning it into a series, like shortly after the movie
Oh,
or during the time. So I haven't watched that in a long time. But yeah, I think I was watching the series. I don't know if maybe I went back and watched the movie one other time. I wasn't using it as my like manuscript of my life, but I think one of the things, and they don't do it so much now necessarily, but the way they taught law school was very combative and argumentative. So they would put forward something and they would want you to make your argument and not back down and bring in the facts. And it could get kind of what would probably be deemed today as aggressive, but definitely combative. So you had to have a thick skin, and you also had to be able to stand your ground and articulate what you were saying. And obviously, the older professors, they were more likely to do that because that's how they learned and
Sure.
that's how they were taught to do it. Whereas the more modern professors, even going back 20, over 25 years, it was a little softer approach. So I'm not sure they're still teaching with that sort of intensity that they were even back then.
wow. So how do you then you're in law school, how do you decide what you want your focus to be? Like where did you determine like what you wanted your focus to be when you graduated as an attorney?
So I always say to new attorneys, you're going to go in thinking you're going to do one thing and end up doing another. So the funny thing was that during law school, I was like, I had a blind professor who taught contracts. And
Wow.
yeah, and he was legally blind. He had gone blind, I think, when he was like 3 or 4. And he taught professors, but he was a really difficult personality. He definitely was more the old school type personality. He was an older gentleman, and I hated contracts. So I was like, I'm not doing anything with contracts, which is absurd because that's pretty much everything we do in life has some sort of thing having to do with contracts. Um, so it was kind of a transition because you get out. Initially when I was in law school, I worked briefly as a clerk for an employment attorney, which I really loved, and then I was doing insurance defense, and I loved the group of people. They had offered me a job there. I had worked at the state attorney's office doing criminal defense. I kind of was feeling out like what I liked doing. When I ended up a year out of getting my license, which is also insane, I went out on my own, and
Wow.
everybody, because I was a female, was throwing me family law cases. They're like, "Oh, you're a female and you're a lawyer. You handle family law cases." And I had a couple of cases, and I was like, "I cannot do this. These people are insane." And I say that with love because they're at the worst
Oh, sure.
part of their whole entire life. So the most sane, balanced person is going to be unbalanced going through that.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to deal with that on a daily basis in my life. So I quickly was like, that's not happening. And then I went and briefly started doing mergers and acquisitions in New York with a large, big law firm, which I did love. But the problem was it was about the time I had decided I was going to have children, and I got pregnant while I was there. And I was like, I will never see this child because I mean, people don't understand who don't do big law. I was working 9:30 to 11 or midnight, Monday through Friday. And then Saturday, I worked 9:30 to 6. It was a short day, and I only had Sunday off. So I kept telling them I was coming back. I was like, oh, I need 6 more weeks. I need 6 more weeks. And after a year, they're like, you're not coming back, are you? But I still had my personal law firm that I hadn't shut down when I did that. And my husband is also a lawyer. He's a little older than me, and he had his personal law firm. So we kind of he was like, you're not going back. Let's just merge the two law firms together, and go forward. And then even with that, it kind of turned into what he was doing. We ended up getting a business client that was in healthcare who owned a large healthcare practice. And then all of a sudden it was just the floodgate of healthcare type business related, not med mal, floodgate of that coming in the door. So I think you have to be able, this is something I've learned through life. You need to be able to pivot. Like you cannot be rigid in your life or in business.
Yeah.
You have to be able to be like, okay, the universe has opened this door to what it is, and I'm going to pivot because obviously this is the direction I'm supposed to be going in. And I'm a firm believer it feels like you're fighting the universe, then you probably are.
Yeah.
So
Well, a lot of people get that opportunity, knock on the door, and just don't answer the door.
Yeah, they ignore it. Yeah. Yeah, they ignore it. I have a girl who just reached out to me and she was like, "Are you hiring for anything? It's changed my role at my job and this and that." I said, "I'm not." But maybe you have to think about like why that's happening, right? Like maybe this is your opportunity to think about how you can grow. Like you're so right. The universe sends us signs and messages all of the time. We can choose to ignore them or we can lean into them. And so I love that you just kind of like leaned into that. Amazing. Well, I mean, at what point did you become this Lex, super powerhouse where
Litigation Lex.
litigation Lex, to where, like, what was the tipping point to where now you're on television all the time, you're, giving commentary on different huge cases around the world? Like, what was that tipping point that made that happen?
And now you're officially a gunslinger.
used to say crisis manager, but I'll do gunslinger. Once again, that was just kind of a random thing. I was on the diversity and inclusion committee for the county bar, and they needed someone to come talk local news about a particular a particular case. It had to do with police brutality. And the individual who was the chair of the time of the committee wasn't able to do it. And they were like, oh, well, why don't you have, just have Alexis do it? Ask her if she'll do it. And so I went on that. And then they kind of started calling me. And I ended up, through that, the door kind of opened to Court TV. And then, like, one producer from them put me, gave another producer from Long Crime, and it kind of snowballs. And then, like, with some of the shows, the way producers are, like, the producers move around a lot, show producers, meaning a show might get canceled, obviously not Court TV or Long Crime, but like I'm on Crime Expose and iCrime. And so if their show gets canceled, or they may be producing multiple shows, and if they like you, then they will pitch you to the executive producer and be like, okay, well, this would be a good fit. Let me show you a clip. And I'll get people reaching out to me that way.
But your personal savvy is very impressive because they don't teach you that stuff in law school.
They did not teach me, and I probably, if I went back and looked at some of my earlier clips, I would be cringing.
We
Um,
all do that.
I would be cringing, but yeah, I mean, I have fun doing it. My husband's also done some. He does not. I think he's good doing it, but he does not have fun doing it. So he just is like, it's not something I want to do. I actually really love doing it. It's a lot of fun. I like being on and talking about. I really enjoy talking about the cases and breaking it down outside of the box of lawyer talk, because a lot of people get on, and I feel like it comes across as very condescending, and instead of just saying this is what's going on and this is why it's going on, because I don't, it's not a CLE, a continuing legal education for attorneys. It's media. So
Right. What is one of the most wildest cases you've been brought in to comment on?
well, the Johnny Depp was fun. The Diddy was fun. I mean, my favorite was probably Johnny Depp, just because you have this very trained actor and they're asking questions, and he's just entertaining anyways.
Right.
So yeah, that was probably my favorite. But I was on the Karen Reed case, which was pretty well publicized case as well. So anything pretty much that's trending. I mean, there's always different fact patterns that are kind of interesting. I mean, the other day, I was talking about, like, this IRS agent who is on trial for murdering his wife, where allegedly he staged this, where he went on her computer and she was going on fetish sites and she had this rape fantasy, and the guy comes in to allegedly rape her with the 4-year-old daughter in the basement. And him and the au pair are so startled that they both shoot the intruder. I mean, why the au pair had a gun, who knows? Um, so I mean, there's really, like, you do these stories, and I do this commentary on these cases, and you're like, what were these people thinking? Like I don't understand. You couldn't just get a divorce? I mean, you really spent a lot
No.
of time, and now we have two dead people. But yeah, there's some crazy scenarios out there for sure.
Got to ask you, the world you live in. I used to think, in my less mature days, about the yin yang symbol, that the yin balanced with the yang, so you kind of enough negative energy balancing the positive. Can you see the world in that light? Or you're dealing with so much negative stress and people in bad times. Do they balance each other in the final analysis?
Well, so for what I do, not my legal commentary, but for what, because obviously I always say if it bleeds, it leads. So those stories that are coming up, they're not going to be sunshine and rainbows. But the what I do in my daily, like, litigating and the course I've created, really, I don't feel it's that way, because I feel like I'm helping them, and I do try to do an all encompassing. Like, a lot of times I'll say, I understand, we've got a couple different components here. We have the component that you feel you've been wronged. We also have the component of what the law says, and then, whether you're right or wrong, and there's no guarantee. But then we also have what's in the best interest, like if it's a business, for instance, what's in the best interest for the business. And a lot of times for the business, it's not to litigate, even if they're 100% correct. And, I sit down and I'm like, let's do a business analysis. And this is why I like this over doing family law, because a lot of times, once you go and you're like, okay, if we litigate this, and this is to my detriment, because if I like got them
Make
all
more
wound
money.
up,
Yeah.
then they would be paying me forever, right?
Yeah.
But I like, if you look at it, like it would be better if you pay a nominal amount and get out so you can focus on your business opposed to continuing to fight, because I'm in the business of fighting, but you're not. You're in the business of doing whatever your business is. With the course, I mean, I love that. I especially love like helping female businesses, because I think that you interact differently, like a way that a female goes about doing business, because we're different people, right? We're different, we're wired differently, is different. So it's very much more all encompassing with them. But also, I think that they haven't, for various reasons, and I hope this is changing with the different generations, there hasn't been like a focus on kind of like from an early age, like giving the girls like just general conversation. I call it dining room, table conversation. Whereas like, oh, this is what happened and why I did this from a business perspective when you're sitting. And maybe Sam did that with you as a child. You guys were having that conversation, but it seems to be less so with the female children opposed to the male. And like I said, hopefully it's changed. So there's little things that they don't even know. I mean, I've had them, I'm setting up a business, I'm dealing with them, and they're like, okay, how do I open a bank account? And I haven't really ever had that been asked of me by a male. Now, maybe it's because they're too embarrassed to ask me that.
Yeah.
I don't know what it is, but it's an interesting dichotomy.
Yeah.
In that you would be like, oh, well, that's not really a legal thing, but I'm happy to help you with that.
So tell me a little bit more about this course. So you are helping women start their businesses or helping them navigate the path of that. Tell me a little bit more about that course you're talking about.
So the course isn't directed at women specifically, and it's called the CEO's Legal Playbook, and it's directed at all business owners, and it's kind of the top things over my 25 plus years that I've seen repeatedly either end up they're being sued or they're calling and asking me to represent them, and it's to help them spot the business owners spot those issues and fix them themselves, give them pointers. Because a lot of times what I find, like if you take something like simple, like a contract, people don't, they're usually long and they're boring and nobody really wants to read them. So you skim them. But even if you skim them, you may not really understand what they say. This is why big companies have whole, armies of attorneys for this type of thing. And it isn't until they want to get out or somebody's saying they breached or there's a problem that then they come and they'll hire me and I'll explain what's in the contract. And a lot of times they're like, I had no idea I signed that. Like, I didn't know that meant that, or I couldn't do that. So this course is like not just with that, but also like disclaimers on your website. Do you own your website? Like, who owns the website? Little like trademark, like what do you need to trademark? Should you trademark it? Should you not? And it goes through all of the very contracts, like certain provisions you should be aware to try to look for so you understand that those provisions. And then it also goes through data security and different insurance policies, because that's another thing. I get calls all the time and I'm like, you don't have insurance for this. And they're like, yes, I do. I have full insurance. And I'm like, well, your full insurance doesn't cover this. So, just kind of so you have an overview, not to become an attorney, but to become a better educated, knowledgeable business owner. And it's done with worksheets. So you hear the video and then you get the worksheet and you also get a one-on-one to go over some things about your specific business. But you could also have, for instance, one of your key employees doing it as well. It doesn't necessarily have to be the CEO.
Sounds like you're still working 9:30 to 11 p.m.
I know, for real.
to go, meet the kids for lunch or see their play. Or my girls are into rowing, going to the regattas, and I have more control over my own schedule for sure.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's just so cool. And is that a self-paced course? So like people can just sign up for it and we'll include the link for it as well too for anyone that's listening as well. That
It
wants.
is a self-paced course. I mean, it has been put together for a 30-day course, but they have access to it for 6 months, so they can do it at whatever pace they want. I don't you
Woo!
hate those courses that are like, okay, you got to take it and you got to do it 4 hours a day, and you
Yeah,
can't,
who
you
has
know.
that? Yeah, yeah, no, that doesn't work. I think that's just so interesting how you're doing like a little bit of everything, because when you're commenting on these cases, like for Johnny Depp or for Karen Reed or any of those, that's not necessarily your legal expert. I mean, you're a lawyer and you've got legal expertise, but you're not focusing on that type of law, but you're coming in and commenting on that. So is that more for like your own personal entertainment value as well too? Like it's got to be fun to do that and get you out of what you do every day. Is that,
Well, so I did do criminal law. I was at the state attorney's
but I
office
mean,
for
like now you're not,
a
right?
little
Yeah,
bit.
yeah.
Well, I love doing it, yeah. And I mean, my dream job would be to be an anchor on one of them. So Core TV, if you're listening.
Let's put that out there in the universe. Let's do that. Do you get a chance? I mean, like, do you get a chance to actually go and be in the courtroom, or are you just zooming in for commentary?
So I can't, I'm zooming in, but I can go. I've done in studio. I do also do in studio. I mean, it's a balance because like you mentioned, I have the course, I have my law firm. I actually have two law firms.
Oh, wow.
So that do entirely different things. I have children, I'm my mother. So, as much as I say I want to do that, I don't know if timing is right as well as it would require a move. They most of them are either films out of California, New York, or Atlanta. So, I'm still willing to entertain it, but I don't know if the timing in my life right now is that would be the best case scenario for my family as a whole. And
Got it.
but
What do you do to relax? Like, what do you do to, I mean, two law firms. And first of all, so the law firm with your husband, where you guys focus on business, is it still healthcare or is it just business law?
it's all business law with a niche also in healthcare. Primarily, his niche is the healthcare, and then well, he does all businesses too, but his niche is the healthcare. I do healthcare law, but I do primarily all businesses. The other law firm does something entirely different. So that's why it's not part of this law firm. It actually does diminished value and loss of use. That's like if your car gets in an accident and it's repaired, it's still diminished in value. And that law firm is a lot more like online stuff,
Okay.
and because it's much simpler in comparison to do a civil racketeering defense case in federal court. That is much simpler.
That sounds good. I don't know a lot about law, but I feel like that does sound a little bit more
As a
simple.
sidebar, one could assume you have trademarked the moniker Litigation Lex.
I
Yes,
have,
I have.
I have done that.
So what does litigation Lex do to like relax? And I know my husband's a litigator as well too. And I know he comes home, he's like, I've been arguing with people all day long. Like he's like never wants to talk to other attorneys. My best friend and my husband are both attorneys. But I don't know what that means. I don't know if we should ask ChatGPT in my therapy session what that means. Um, but like what does that like what do you do to come down from that? Because litigation is basically, fighting with other people, not like fighting, but like, you're arguing all day long.
That's a Pilates girl.
Do not do Pilates. I should take that up. But I agree with your husband. Like, I don't know how long your husband's been practicing. For the first few years, I actually liked it. It was like kind of like a boxing match.
Yeah.
It got out my aggression. Now it's as I'm getting older, I'm kind of getting sick of arguing with people all the time,
Yes.
especially over like dumb stuff, over
Yeah.
stuff that meaning attorneys shouldn't be arguing over that it's not necessary.
Yeah.
Um, so I love to travel. And for me, one of the things that when I travel, I always say, unless someone's being arrested or is bleeding, don't call me.
Is that
And
for
my
your
office,
children or is that for your
Well,
clients?
in all fairness, you never hear someone yell, "Is there a lawyer in the house?" On the
Exactly.
plane, on the plane.
But a lot of times my clients do think that they're having an emergency
Yeah.
when it's not necessarily an emergency. Um, but my staff is pretty much, I've had staff that's been with us for a long time, and so they are pretty good at being able to say, okay, this is something that's an emergency, or something that they can talk them off the ledge, and they've been trained to be, to be able to deal with that. So rarely will I get that emergency call. There has been times when I am, on vacation, and the judge's assistant will call the office and be like, "Oh, the judges just decided they're going to set down this hearing that wasn't on the schedule," because the judge thinks whatever's going on is an emergency. And obviously that interrupts my vacation. And obviously if I have a client that's having a true emergency that doesn't
Yeah.
entail being arrested or bleeding, I am accessible. But I think a lot of times stuff, especially with business law, if the client just waits a minute,
Yeah.
it's not as much of it. And I've had them say, I'll call them back and they'll be like, "Oh, it really wasn't that," once they calm down. So,
Well, yeah, they get emotionally hijacked. So travel, what else do you do on a daily basis? Because you can't be traveling every day, but what else do you do? You're so high energy. I'm always curious as to what people do to like zen out.
well, also when I'm in my house, I just find my house to be very zenful. So
Sanctuary.
Yeah.
yeah, and that's kind of my safe place. I go there, and I go. We entertain a lot. We go out and socialize,
Yeah.
on a regular basis. So I think that helps as well. I have a really good tribe of friends, very diverse tribe, and so that helps that helps as well.
Now you said you have a 12 and 13-year-old. Is that correct? Is that how
I
old?
do. I have well, actually, she's 14. I have a 12, 14, and 19-year-old. And then I have two older stepchildren.
So, does your litigation practice help you in navigating those conversations with the preteen and the teenagers?
No, no.
Your interrogation that you know, or your cross-examination skills, do those come into play with children?
No, wasn't the other, like during the holiday break, my 19-year-old came back from school and he was just like, sometimes I need you not to fix it. I just need you to listen. And I was like, okay, I don't know. And I said to him, people pay me good money to fix things. And he was like, but I don't want you to fix it. I just want you to let me vent. And I'm like, okay.
Well, and did you let them? So, my best friend will always say to her child, she'll say, "Well, if you need to lawyer up, I'm here, but I want you to try and solve it first." Was that something that you do with your kids as well too? Like before you stepped in, like did you call it like they could have their lawyer come in and support them in school if there's ever an issue? No.
I am definitely have never been described by my children or my friends as a helicopter mom. I am not. I don't know if it's because of lack of time. I don't know if it was the way I was raised, because I was not raised with helicopter parents at all. But I am a firm believer, like if they get in trouble, really the only one that gets in trouble, used to get in trouble, was the 19-year-old boy. The two girls pretty much are pretty good. But with him, I'd be like, you created this situation, so now you need to go to down to whoever and deal with the situation. It's not me. Now, I'm not to say that if it gets to a level that I need to step in and deal with it, but I do think as parents, we need to teach our kids to fly. I mean,
Yeah.
that's our job as parents. And I think when you hover, and I have seen it with some of my friends, that their kids are now the same age as my son, 19, and they've come to me and said, maybe I, should have backed off a little,
Yeah.
because you don't want them to be needy. I mean, it really is getting crazy. Not recently, but a few years ago, I would have like parents of employees call my office and be like, "Oh, they're calling in sick." And I'm like, what? This is not this isn't appropriate. And I don't know how old
Ever.
how old are your children? How
I
old are
only
you?
have one. I have a 10-year-old.
Okay. So when you get to college age, which blew my mind, which was quite entertaining for myself and my husband. My son went to school and there was like a Facebook chat for that school, a parent chat. And they would post the craziest stuff. I would sit in bed at night, read it to him, and we would just laugh. Like somebody's like, "Should I send rain shoes with my son because we're moving from New Jersey and I heard it rains a lot in Florida?" I'm like, I wanted to write, if you send this child, it rains watches to college. Friends.
It's so interesting though, because I see it. I've got friends who like we had children later in life. So a lot of my friends, their kids are in college or they're graduating college or whatever. And it's really interesting to see the kids that the parents, let them be independent and let them find their way, or the parents that just like hovered. And now you see the kids are afraid to go do things on their own. They're afraid, they need mommy and daddy all the time. And I know that, listen, my daughter can come to me for anything, anytime. I go to my parents and I'm 47 years old. So I will go to them anytime. But there's a balance there, right? Of knowing that you have the support when you want it, but also then that you're just like supporting them and not letting them fly. So I love that you said that. It's like, yeah, we have to give them that freedom and that ability, or they're going to grow up to be humans that can't critically think, can't make any decisions, and then they become voters, and then who knows what happens. But anyway.
Well, we kind of know what happened. But...
I didn't go either way. I just said I'm never will get political. I didn't go either way. I'm just saying then they come into society and they become employees, team members that can't function because someone's not helping them make those decisions. My last question for you is that, so my dad was talking earlier about the yin and the yang. And as I mentioned, my husband's a litigator. He argues all day long. I am what he calls a rainbow thrower. And I work with teams and I build them up in culture and connection. And I have a really fun job. And so we balance each other out. I'll see something on Amazon. I'll be like, let's buy it. It looks fun. And he'll be like, well, let's look at like the ratings and make sure it's all good. That attorney analytical side comes into him. How do you balance that in a relationship where you're both litigators? You're both there looking at the analyzing cases. You're both there to win an argument. How have
They
you?
only have one Amazon account.
We actually only have one Amazon
No.
account.
So,
And I only have
right
access.
on Pilates, right on Amazon.
You've been married. How long have you been married for?
She liked that.
Yeah. How long have you been married for?
22 years next week.
Oh, congratulations.
Happy anniversary.
Yes. Thank you.
So how do you find that balance, right? Like that's got to be hard. So how do you find that balance?
Right. So I get this question all the time because we work together. And I think that what people don't understand is he's not like sitting in my office next to me and we're not working, even though we're working together. We're not working on the same cases. So, he has his clients, his cases, I have mine. And obviously it's nice that we have that we can throw stuff off at each other. So we do have that benefit, but it really is kind of the division of duties. And I think that we divide up who's going to do what, and that person, whatever duty that is, has the final say so, even if the other person disagrees. And that's worked for us. Now, not to say there aren't times that, we clash and one of us may disagree with the other. But I mean, I think that's business partners as well as being married. But it really is just kind of dividing up and just letting that person who you're putting in charge of whatever it is has the final say so, and then having respect for the other person's opinion.
Yeah, I love that. Well, we are at 11 years. You're at 22 years. So I will follow that continued guidance as we navigate towards our next year and next year and next year. I just think you're so amazing. Like everything that you've accomplished from childhood all the way and how you set your mind at 9. I hear my daughter at age 10, she probably has a different career path like every week of what she wants to do. So I think it's really cool that you knew at 9 where you were going. You've done that, but you haven't just done it. You've exceeded and you've mastered so many elements in your role. And I just think it's fascinating. I'm so glad you shared your story with us.
Well, thank you for having me. And wow, I didn't know I was going to get like pumped up on here too.
Of course, that's our goal. Yes.
And as much as this has been a pleasure, I sincerely hope we do not see you on a professional basis.
But no, if you need me, I am here. You guys are great. I just love the fact that you're doing this together. And this has just been so fun.
Oh, thank you. Well, tell our listeners before we go why they would connect with you. Like, what would be a reason for them to reach out and connect with you so we know to send people in the right direction? Like, what would obviously not only to be your friend because you're amazing and awesome and human. And I'd love to meet you in person one day.
If your au pair has a license to carry.
Yeah, we got a problem there. And by the way, a hot au pair from Brazil. You might want to
Oh, I didn't know that.
Too.
Hey, they don't have to always be hot. Look at Arnold Schwarzenegger, right? Like they don't have to always be hot.
Yeah, think that life choice. But yeah, if you have a business, and I do like stuff just to prevent you from being sued. You don't have to call me just if you're being sued or need to sue someone, as well as the course if you want to try to do it yourself. My handles are at Litigation Lex, pretty much for everything. And my law firm, having for business owners, is Rosenberg Law, and for the diminished value is Car Value Law.
Amazing. Can you only practice in Florida? Like you can only deal with people in Florida, or can you practice in Florida and New York? Like where can you practice?
I'm only licensed in Florida and federal courts, and I do federal cases. A lot of litigators don't handle federal cases, but my husband is licensed in New York, and we do have an office in New York as well.
But your course is put together for anybody and anywhere. Is the course for anyone anywhere?
The course, because it's really just kind of an overview, is anybody in any state can take it. Because it's teaching you the issue spot and giving you a general understanding, and obviously specific for your business, then you would need to consult with someone in that particular jurisdiction.
I've always said there's usually everybody has a book inside of them. Do you have one?
Not yet, but Sam, you want to write a book with me?
No, you don't want to go down that path.
Are you the writer?
Yeah, no, I just wrote my first book, and he was like one of my reviewers, and I could tell him like, did you read the whole thing or did you like skim it? What did you do?
There were no pictures.
He'll read the children's book that's coming out this year.
Well, I have a podcast called Wine by the Case, and I was out to dinner with the co-host, and my husband's like, I don't know the name of the podcast. I'm like, the other husband goes, are you kidding me right now? He's like, did that come out of your mouth? Like, she's sitting there, right?
Oh my gosh. I'm glad that I'm not alone though. Like we're all just moving so fast that who knows, but yeah. I love it. Well, thank you so much for what you do to help people, to inform people on a legal level, because I know like the legalese is always, my husband will tell me a story about a case. I'm like, huh? So I love that you're that commentary online, but also that you're helping business owners navigate the parts we don't like to deal with. So thank you for just being yourself, for saying yes to coming on the podcast. I look forward to hopefully seeing you out in the wild, as they say, off the screen sometime. And we're just grateful you took some time to spend it with us today. Don't send the bill.
We better review our agreement.
If he calls you about his legal contract to work on this podcast, I would like a heads up, please.
Always use a pseudonym. Hey, we'll see you around town. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Lex.
Yeah.
Thanks. Bye. How cool. What a powerhouse, right?
I didn't want to say, but the biggest thing about the Johnny Depp case was all about someone shit the bed.
Why do you say it that way?
That was her. What happened?
She did? I remember that.
That was his girlfriend. Oh, go check it out.
She pooped in bed?
That's what he claimed, yes.
And that's
you didn't know that? Well,
oh.
they're both actor,
it's just so interesting. I think, like you watch some of these legal shows, and just to break it down like that, she does that. But what a fascinating story, because I really do believe that people will look at her and say, oh my gosh, Litigation Lex, she's on TV. But you can tell that there are some things from her past that wasn't so easy. She had to navigate.
They see the finished part. They don't see the trail behind, and they have to deal with that.
Or what about like being an attorney and the hours that a lot of jobs are like that, right? Like I know there has been times in my career where I've had to work like that, but not every single day. And we wonder why people are walking around stressed out. They're working all the time.
Yeah, you lose some part of the balance. Some people handle that lack of balance better than others, but sure, it's not healthy.
Yeah, believe me, it's not healthy being the best friend and the wife of two attorneys. No, I'm just kidding. I love them both so much. But no, it is.
And on that note,
well, maybe we should get them to draw their portrait.
Something every time we sit down.
Maybe we should do the drawing portrait for them and get them to play a little bit more.
Play is good.
Play is good. All right, Dad. Thanks for being here.
Go shed your fun, people.
Do you want some lunch?
Oh, yeah.
Let's do it. All right, listener, we got to go make lunch. We'll talk to you next time.
Adios.
Bye.
Hey, thank you for tuning into today's What's Your Story podcast.
To learn more or share your story, go to jamiemarco.com. That's www.jamiemarco.com. And we will see you next time.